Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on my channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the most underrated things within Brawl Stars. So that's whether that's a gadget, star power, or a gear in particular. These are going to be ones that I think are definitely being slept on quite a lot. And of course, it's a Sunday, so I wanted to do a little bit of a chill video because I really enjoy the underrated videos. So we're going to be starting off with Nita's gadget, Bear Paws. So I really feel like this gadget is so underrated. It's pretty hard to get the right timing on it all the time, but if you do manage to predict the enemy's movement and get that stun off, I think more than likely you confirm the kill. Almost like the biggest reason why I really like this gadget is just to stop the attack from the opponent. So for example, if it's like a Buzz or an Ash or a Mortis, getting close and personal against Anita, which still is a pretty big counter to her, being really close to her, you can pop that gadget, give yourself a little bit more of a breathing space, of course. Then Bruce can just get a couple of swipes off as well. Cycle your next super. I just think it's very strong and so underrated in the lane. Okay, so jumping into the next build, which is really underrated, it is more rockets with Brock. So I think I must have said this so many times, and still so many times to see people arguing in the comments when I do a best build video that rocket number 4 is better. And for me, it just really isn't. More rockets is so good at cycling your super, confirming kills, and it makes Brock so much more of a threat because, again, let's face it, you're never going to reload to the 4th rocket. It's really hard to, especially if the opponents are going really aggro and up into your face. And more rockets gives you 4 extra rockets within the super. All you need to connect is more than likely like 3 or maybe even 4 rockets of your super to confirm a kill. And then by then, you're basically cycled another super. You open up a lot of the map as well. And already, like, his super, I would say a lot of times quite easy to dodge and avoid most of the damage, but with his star power, it makes him so deadly. All right, guys, jumping into the next really underrated build within the game right now, I went with health gear with tank. So you guys might be thinking straight away, well, that's just quite self-explanatory, right? But hear me out, this is the reason why. Because within people's best builds, typically for a tank, you know, if it's a grassy map, they're going to go speed and like damage, or even the supercharged gear, you know, on brawlers like Primo and Bull, which is actually pretty good on. But I think health gear is probably the most necessary for it because, again, there's so many tank counters out there. So the reason why health gear is so good is because it helps you automatically charge your super a lot quicker, because of course you charge up your super for the damage you take. So a lot of times you could literally just walk up, say with El Primo, if you got a really tough matchup, you know, just let them hit you. You know, it's going to feed their super, but then you can heal up much quicker, and then you can get even more of your super cycle. I think this is really the big difference maker, especially into hard matchups. I always make sure I've got the health gear on my tanks just for that very reason. Okay, so jumping into the next build, which is very underrated within Brawl Stars right now, we have the vision gears. So every now and then the vision gear comes into the meta and then starts to trickle out, but for me, I think it's actually one of the most valuable gears in the game right now. The speed gear got a slight nerf, and I think it's even more vital than the speed gear on those bushier maps. Even with sharpshooters, I've had times in streams where, for example, like Piper and Hard Rock Mine, if I'd have had the vision gear on, I'd have had so much of a better time. It allows you to keep up with the enemy gem carrier, and literally you're able to get free kills because of it. And again, another scenario which happened in my stream, which was really annoying, is that on last stop, for example, I was a Gale against a Rosa, and because I didn't have the vision gear on, I actually didn't counter Rosa as good as I thought, because she could still sneak around even with the slow star power. It's pretty annoying. But if I had the vision star power, I could have just kept on top of it the whole time and completely destroyed my lane. So I think vision gear is so incredibly underrated on so many different brawlers. People have got to keep buying it. Okay, so jumping into the next really underrated star power within the game right now, I went with Crow's star power, carrying Crow. So you guys seen now, I put Crow in the biggest fall off list because he was only picked a few times in competitive. He's still a decent brawler, I would say around the B tier, but definitely has fell from grace. He used to always be an S tier brawler, so I feel like people need to experiment with his build a little bit more, because we are very accustomed just to going extra toxic and then slow and toxin as well. Maybe we could play around with things. Maybe, I know, slow and toxin is still very good. Maybe we could switch to gadget up, but specifically the star power. Carrying Crow is very good. Again, there's so many tanks, so many tankier hypercharged brawlers or just high HP brawlers, and carrying Crow is going to get a lot more value into that. So I feel like he could kind of switch his role in this meta, you know, paired with the mythic gear as well. I think it's a very underrated build. Alright guys, jumping into the next build, which is very underrated within Brawl Stars. It is Bell's gadget, Reverse Polarity. So this gadget, I feel like comes and goes out of the meta, but right now, specifically in Knockout, you know, it's a very niche scenario, but this gadget is so incredibly strong. The reason why I really love it, the pro players have utilized it so well. So in out in the open, for example, what you can do is get a specific bounce shot, and it basically allows you to near enough always hit an opponent, and then once it starts bouncing off one opponent, it's going to hit off another, and then it's going to force them back into spawn. So the reason why this is so good, because in a game mode like Knockout, you need map position. That's probably the most important thing about Knockout. If you can push the enemies back into their spawn, it means the gas is going to close it in, and you're just going to get a lot of free kills through that way. So that's why Reverse Polarity is so good. It's really good at getting the pressure, and it's really good as well on maps where, you know, people typically camp behind walls. You know, for example, dry season, if it's just a thrower and someone else just camping behind the wall, Reverse Polarity can really help keep them from grouping up and push them back a little bit. So very underrated. I'll have to give you guys all the best tips when I do a Bell guide eventually, because there's a lot of really underrated spots with this gadget. It's jumping into the next build, which is insanely underrated. It is Cookie Crumb's gadget with Mandy. So this gadget, I've always said since the release, it's very underrated, and right now I'm only starting to see some pros start to use it. It's so incredibly strong. The fact that you can literally just shoot through a wall with this, and of course with Mandy, she deals so much damage. It's just absolutely insane. So the reason why I love it, especially in Knockout, is because it just catches people off guard all of the time. Most people are just so accustomed to seeing the caramelized gadget all of the time, where this one, you can just randomly pop it and quickly kill someone who is one shot behind the wall. Specifically throwers, you know, they're so annoying in Knockout. So if you're able to finish them off with one shot, it's just really sweet. And the thing that I love about it as well is, say if you, for example, if you're like 1 or maybe 2 shots away from super, you can just hit an opponent behind a wall, then get your super, and then just quickly kill them. The surprise factor is so good with Mandy, and I've always been using this gadget. So incredibly strong on any map with a lot of walls. So jumping into the next really underrated build within the game right now, we have Rerouting with Chuck. So the other gadget with Chuck, you can go through walls. A lot of the times that is the better option, but I've seen in pro gameplay that Rerouting is actually so underrated, specifically maybe in tough matchups where you can't get your pole onto the safe. So again, you know, in pro matches it's very hard to utilize Chuck because they won't allow you to get within distance of the safe and put that pole on the safe, so then you can keep going back and forth up the map. So what Rerouting allows you to do, so for example, if you take safe zone, you know, typically there's like that little bit of water before the safe. Normally you can quite easily at least get a pole towards that area. So once you get a pole towards that area, you can just super up the map, then press your gadget, and then quickly just throw another pole onto this safe. So this is a really underrated strategy I've seen quite a lot within pro games in Heist, and I think could be the difference maker in you actually dealing a lot of damage to the safe, and of course you just lose them, because you don't even need the gadget that goes through walls on a map like Safe Zone. So unfortunately I've got no gameplay to show it, but hopefully that explanation does justice. So some underrated strategies with this gadget. Okay, so jumping into the next underrated build in the game right now, we have the super sticky star power with Squeak. So there's always some discussion on which star power is better with Squeak. For a little while now, Chain Reaction has been the better one overall, giving him that extra bit of damage, but it might finally be the time where people are starting to switch back over to super sticky. So of course with Hypercharge in the game right now and so many tanks, at least a 4-second slow can stop that. You know, Hypercharges go on for 5 seconds. That's nearly the whole duration of Hypercharge, probably wasted if you can connect this super onto them, slowing them down. And of course any type of slow mechanic is really strong in Brawl Stars anyway, but with Squeak it's especially strong because of course he's very vulnerable to any sort of aggression. So slowing them down, he's able to chain a lot of shots, you know, 2-3 shots onto them again, and then charge up his next super. So this can be a very, very underrated star power, and I think it might actually be the better one now. Okay, so now jumping into the final underrated build within the game right now, we have Sealed with a Kiss star power with Lola. So this star power is very underrated, specifically in game modes where you typically want to stay alive. So I would say game modes like Knockout, Bounty, Hot Zone, and Gem Grab. So that's quite a lot of game modes where I'd actually rather go this one than the improvised star power. But this is really good, but it actually just changes the way that you probably play Lola a little bit. So you want to place the ego behind Lola, and a lot of the times you kind of want to tank for your ego. Normally it's the other way around, right? You put the ego in front of you, you want to pop freeze frame so it tanks for you, but you want to tank for your ego because you're able to get so much healing for you and your teammates. It's so so underappreciated. I think the best game mode for it has to be Hot Zone, and in particular Ring of Fire. I think it's actually insane on, and people are just still sleeping on it. Specifically as well, if you have the reload speed, epic gear as well, you're able just to spam out even more heals consistently. So that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know down in the comment section below what is underrated in Brawl Stars, whether it's one of your favorite brawlers or whether it's the star power, gadget, or a gear like I did in today's video. So that's going to be it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you guys next time.